Ladies and gentlemen, members of the WEMBO community, I'm here with Cory Wallace. He's a professional mountain bike endurance racer. He's the BC bike race champion, the two-time Canadian XC marathon champion, and the three-time WEMBO world champion. He's a native of British Columbia and one of the most well-travelled and interesting cats you'll meet. Some of the things that Cory Wallace has done have been incredible. I'm thrilled to be speaking with Cory. Thanks for making the time. Welcome to a WEMBO interview, Cory Wallace. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling well, Jason. Thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, let's get at her.
Fantastic. So most people know who you are, right? You've been around racing 24 hours for years. It was a real thrill to see you take the top step after such a long haul trying to get it in 2017. It was a well-deserved win over Jason in that particular race. Moving on from that, however, your racing resume reads like a library of Lonely Planet guidebooks, right? You spent a lot of time in some really interesting countries. I'll draw your attention to one event that you did recently, the Annapurna Trail, where you sort of time trial the Annapurna Trail. Now that's very different from the race that you had leading into that, the WEMBO 2019 race in Brazil, which was a flat-out high-speed burn over a long course. When you're doing those sort of events at altitude, how do you train your body to be able to switch from sea level flat country to arguably some of the highest vert per meter that you can ride in the world? How do you get your body to adapt from sea level to altitude and get through those challenges?
Well, you either have to blitz it, like just show up and just get it done. Don't let the body have a chance to even start adapting. Or if you want to do it the more secure way, you want to go like a week, 10 days in advance to get some acclimation going. So for the Annapurna 24-hour, it's always a week after the yak attack, the 1 week race in Nepal. And before the yak attack, I'm at altitude for a week as well. So essentially I have 2 or 3 weeks in the body at altitude before the Annapurna. And that seems to help over the high elevation because it's 5,400 meters. So it's definitely it's serious up there.
It's very serious up there. Yeah.
Yeah, I find 2 or 3 weeks is ideal to get a good acclimation in.
Right. And the yak attack, did you get a chance to race that this year? I don't think you did. Was it carved up from COVID?
The yak attack's been canceled the last 2 years.
Right.
I'm planning to head back this November to do it.
Right.
It's my favorite end of season event. It's like low key, beautiful. The Nepalese are amazing, so it's always a good way to cap the year.
Right. Actually, talking about the Nepalese, you ended up, the COVID pandemic got to all of us as it did. We got locked the hell down in Melbourne. Lots of people got locked down. You ended up being locked down in the Himalayas. I think you ended up with a 7-month lockdown in Nepal. We had, Netflix, VR, Uber Eats, Swift, all that sort of stuff to keep us entertained, and we still went mad. How did you handle spending 7 months in lockdown in a developing country? How was that for you?
I mean, it was awesome because I have a good community there, a bunch of good friends. At the time, I had a Nepalese girlfriend, and we were doing a training camp with the Nepali team up in the Himalayas, just about 50K south of Everest.
Right.
And then we started hearing rumors that there's going to be a lockdown. It was imminent. So we sent the riders back to Kathmandu. It was like 12-hour drive. And then that night I did decide what I was doing, like either go to Kathmandu and try and catch one of the last flights back to Canada, or just sit pat and just let it roll. And I just decided to stay. I mean, I thought we're going in a global pandemic. You don't want to hop on a plane and start like bounce around the world. And yeah, I mean, that's in the Himalayas, end of the road. If things got out of control, I could like go over to Tibet. I had like different tea houses stationed. So like plan A, plan B, plan C. So I thought, you know what, let's just stay here and see what happens. And yeah, I mean, it's the end of the line before the Everest hiking trail starts. So it's pretty isolated, and yeah, it was pretty cool. So yeah, I decided to stay, and my girlfriend stayed with me, and we went to a buddy's place, this French cyclist. He took us in for the first part of the lockdown, and then yeah, I mean, the first few weeks were a little bit stressful, just seeing how serious it was going to get, how the Nepalese were going to react. There was rumors down by India that some tourists were getting trapped in the hotel because the locals thought that the travelers were the ones carrying the virus. So that kind of put radar, like, it's okay, like, hopefully they don't see me and think I'm the virus. But they didn't. They were very welcoming. And yeah, after a couple weeks up in the mountains, everyone is so relaxed up there. So we started going on our little bike rides. Like, from our house, we go straight into the woods and ride up a 10,000-foot mountain. And then we do a couple laps on the trails and come down. So that kept us sane. And yeah, I mean, we did that for 2 months. And we got to the point we built some more trails to ride. And I mean, it wasn't normal riding. We'd be really careful in this descents. We didn't want to go to the hospital at that time. And but just, it kept us sane. And yeah, after a couple months of doing that, ended up moving up to a monastery. We rode by it on some of our training rides, and the monks were always like, "Oh, come stay with us, come stay with us." So I thought, like, you know what, we stayed with my French buddy for a couple months. It's been awesome, but I mean, let's switch it up and go live with the monks for a while.
Wow.
And that was unreal. Like, they were living off a cliff at just under 10,000 feet. In the monastery, there's like 30 monks.
Wow.
And yeah, it was insane to live with those guys. Just see how they do their prayers in the morning. They're I mean, the little kids, is about 20 school age kids. They go to school every day on site, 3 meals a day. And it's like a communal environment, so everyone helps just keep the monastery going. So I'd usually go for a ride in the morning, come back, and then just chill with the monks, help them out whatever they're doing. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, some days we'd run down the mountain with milk pails to find, they had like 4 or 5 cows, and a couple monks would grab the cows, and then a couple other guys would milk them. You come back up the mountain with your milk. Other days we'd go down and search for potatoes and spinach off the local farmers, because of the pandemic, there's no supply, so we had to live off the land. And yeah, it was pretty unreal for sure.
Wow. I mean, in a way, it sounds almost idyllic in terms of, shutting out all the noise, being safe, and, arguably being forced to focus on what's really important, and that's getting food, staying safe, sleeping well, and hanging out with arguably probably some of the most chilled cats on the planet. Would have been really, really interesting.
Yeah, totally. There's no stress up there.
Yeah.
I mean, there was Wi-Fi, so I could go to one spot and get Wi-Fi and connect with the outside world, see what's going on. But no, I was pretty content where I was. And yeah, eventually, I mean, I spent close to 4.5, 5 months up in the Himalayas, and it turned into monsoon. The monsoon moved in July, and all the trails just turned into this like mudslide. You're crashing every ride, and it was just getting pretty sketchy. And actually, my bike, I'd ridden the bike the whole race here, and then another 5 months in Nepal.
Yeah.
No, it was longer than that. It was the whole winter, so 7 months. Anyways, the bike was like in need of repair for sure. Like, I had my seat glued on. It's down to like a 3-speed, and like the suspension, like it hadn't been maintained in half a year, and I was riding it a lot. So I was like, okay, I gotta get out of the mountains before my bike breaks, because I either bike back to Kathmandu, which is 300k, or I have to hop in a Jeep, which is going to be full with about 10 or 12 locals.
Yeah.
And they just don't care about they don't really care about the pandemic, the virus, too much. So it's just a high risk situation if you hopped in a public transit. So like, okay, I want to definitely ride out of here. So do it before it breaks. Had a Nepali buddy meet me halfway, and he kind of escorted me into Kathmandu, because they had checkposts every district. So about 7 checkposts I had to get by. And I mean, I tried to go to the mountains once by myself and I just got shut down. They're like, no, like you can't get out of here unless you're going. Do you have a flight? I was like, well, there are no flights. So, but anyways, my Nepali buddy escorted me back to Kathmandu, and then I ended up being there for another three months, July, August, September. Yeah, it was insane. Like Kathmandu, there's no traffic because of the lockdown. There's no pollution. You could see the Himalayas for the first time in like 10 years. You see Everest from Kathmandu.
Yeah.
And we just had the city to ourselves to train in. And Kathmandu is surrounded by mountains, just full of trails and dirt roads. And it was just a mountain biking heaven for those 3 months. And I mean, it was Nepal, so every week things changed. Like 1 week we were stuck in our houses. Next week you could go out. There's always checkposts. Usually there's like shopping hours from 7 to 9 in the morning, so I could do my rides then. And at 9 o'clock, if they were strict, they would be chasing you back home.
Right.
And if you got caught outside of those hours, they'd catch you and put you in these like holding pens, and you had to stand socially distanced for like 2 or 3 hours, kind of put on display. It was
so they were like public. They'd say, this guy was out, we're going to put him here in a pen, and you just walk past some dudes who've been caught by the local constabulary. Was that right?
Yeah, kind of like public shaming, I guess. But we as foreigners were lucky. They gave us a bit of a green pass, I felt. I got asked one time to go in a pen, but I just spoke Spanish back to the lady and she was all confused, and then she just like waved me through. She's like, you're not worth the effort, just like get out of here. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. And then come October, end of September, everything just opened up again. People, it's a very poor country. So people, if they are in lockdown, they can't get food. They can't, like, they start to starve. And so after a few months, they're like, okay, we just got to keep living and get on with life. So then the city went back to normal and pretty polluted. And at that point, I still didn't want to catch the virus because I didn't really know the long-term effects of it.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I should get out to Canada right now and just like let things settle down a bit. So yeah, then I got home and spent the winter in Canada.
Right. So how long have you been back in Canada for? Because it doesn't seem like you've been back for long. Is that right? Have you been back for 2 months or 8 months? Just trying to track.
Well, I was back for last race season. And then after BC bike race, I was invited to the Cape Epic last October.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Africa. So Tibet, Canada, Africa. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I was in Africa for 5 months, 6 months. Then I got home in April to do the Sea Otter Classic, the first race of the Lifetime Fitness Grand Prix. And then I've been back in Canada the last 5-6 weeks. Yeah.
So you haven't been home for long. You've been traveling, I think you spent a ton of time in Africa, and it's interesting for the audience to note that, when Cory's in Tibet, you did some races, you did some events to raise money for the monastery that you stayed in. Did I read that right? And similarly, you did something in South Africa. So you're raising money for the guys in South Africa that helped you out. Can you tell us a little bit about that and your rationale and your philosophy behind the fundraising?
Yeah. Well, I just end up in these countries where you see the suffering and you see the people, like, you see they can help them out. And it all started with Annapurna 2-4. I did a GoFundMe for the Nepal national team. And I was just blown away by the support. So during the lockdown, I was like, okay, like these monks are looking after me. They don't even want to take money for me staying there. So I thought, you know what, like I'm stuck here, let's do an Everesting. There's a 3K like super rough road up to the monastery. I can just do laps in that and raise some money for these guys just as a thank you. At that point they wanted to build a dry house because they live up in the clouds and all their clothes get wet and they don't dry. Like I learned that myself very quick. Like I'd wash my bike clothes and they'd be wet 3 days later.
Wow.
So they wanted to get a dry house. So that's what we did a fundraiser for. And then over in Africa, I got invited to race the Wines to Wales with A.D. Enthoven. And he was part of the Anna Foundation. which is helps poor South African kids get education. So we did a fundraiser for them. And then over in Kenya, up in Kenyan Highlands, I was training in E10 with all the marathon runners. And I got to be friends with a few of them. And one day the one guy asked, like, hey, like, I need new running shoes. Any way you could help me out? And I was like, okay, like, what do these shoes cost? He's like, oh, just $25. Because I get like slightly used stuff from the UK and US.
Yeah.
So $150 shoes they can buy for $25. And that trip, my aunt Risa from Manitoba, Central Canada, gave me $500 to like just spend on the locals. Like, just when you see people need help, do that. So I was like, hey, these runners need shoes. Let's do it. So I used her money and I did a fundraiser on top of that for like another $1,000. And we got shoes for probably 50 plus runners.
Right. So you've probably contributed to another swathe of medals for Kenyan runners at this subsequent Olympics. And I dare say there's Olympic committees in Australia, the UK, and the US that might be thinking you've undermined their efforts.
Well, it's amazing. Like up in E10, it's a town of 5,000 people, and there's over 1,000 Kenyan runners there. Because they come from all over the mountains, and they show up with like bare feet and try and compete with the locals and get noticed.
Yeah.
And then if they get noticed, they can develop and get scholarships in the States, and that's like the ticket out of Africa. So they all show up there to give their best shot. And I mean, you can tell who needs support. Like, they all need support, more or less, but the guys without shoes definitely need shoes.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Now, your right shoulder, you've struggled with your right shoulder for a while. Now, between falling off cliffs in Nepal during certain events and for getting out of bed in Morocco, you popped your shoulder out on numerous occasions. Now, I'm interested to know, you went through a particular kind of treatment for that. I'll get you to just tell us whether or not your shoulder's good now. For, you know, it's strong for Finale. And can you tell us a little bit about the treatment and how that might have taken you out of your regime for a bit?
Well, it's kind of funny. Like, I was supposed to leave Nepal just before the pandemic in February for a race in Spain, but I fell off the side of a mountain and it popped out. And it was out like 12 or 15 times before that. And it got to the point it got really hard to get back in. So that time I had to catch a taxi like 4 hours down a mountain, go to the hospital, get it put back in. And then went off trekking towards the Himalayas, and that's when the lockdown happened. And because of my shoulder is why I got stuck. And anyways, it held in there the whole lockdown, came back to Canada in October. And then I was out skiing with a buddy in December. And my ski pole got stuck and yanked the shoulder out again.
Wow.
And again, it was like a 4-hour episode, like hobbling down a mountain to get out to a hospital. And then my doctor, Declan in Jasper, is like, okay, we're getting this fixed. Like, you have no choice anymore. So he made some phone calls, and pretty soon, it was January, he had me under the knife down in Banff. Dr. Hurd, he's like one of the best sports doctors in Canada, probably.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he cut a piece of bone off my, I don't know what you call it, not the clavicle, but there's a little bone he cut off, put it in place as a blocker, and then put 2 screws in there, tighten all the ligaments, and it's pretty, they call it Ligure procedure.
Right.
So yeah, that's what happened. And then I was in rehab for February, March, April. And I mean, since then I've been just building up strength. It's good now, but yeah, it was long overdue for sure. And it's nice to have that kind of off the mind, because I was always worried about crashing and having it pop out and then I'm doomed. But now it's probably stronger than the other one. So
wow, that's incredible. And I mean, a dislocated shoulder really hurts. Having it happen like 15 or 16 times, did it hurt the same when you first did it to your 16th time, or did it just become something of like an inconvenience? I've just lost my arm.
No, it got worse towards the end.
Wow.
Because the first like 10 times I could get it in by myself.
Yeah.
but then for whatever reason it gets harder to get put in, and then you're walking on at the shoulder out for like 3 or 4 hours, and it hits nerves, and it's not enjoyable. So definitely got worse as it went on, and it's becoming a real liability. Like if you're up in the Annapurna and it pops out, like the hospital's a long ways away. And I mean, eventually it would pop in itself, but it might be a day or two, like till the muscles relax. And so the pandemic was a good excuse to finally get it done and sit down and let it heal.
That's incredible. Now, I think in speaking with Russ Baker, the president of WEMBO, he was mentioning that you're thinking about putting on a race as well, 24-hour race in Canada with your friend Leighton Poivin. With all the travel you've done, you would have had a pretty good idea about what constitutes a good bike trail, and arguably what constitutes a good race trail. Can you tell us what you're looking for if this race is still going ahead and I've got all that right? What are you looking for in putting together a 24-hour trail? What in your travels has influenced you when you're looking at the trail and the mountain to put something together?
Well, I've probably been about 10 different 24-hour races, and each one did something amazing, did something that wasn't so amazing. I mean, you just take the best parts of each one. And we made the Okanagan 2-4. We hosted that in 2019. That was the first edition, just before we went to Brazil. And yeah, we wanted a course that was just under an hour long.
Yeah.
Like, so the winning time is like 22 to 24 laps. You want to have, I think, 60-70% trail. You want to have some double track too for passing. You want to have, I think you want to have some difficulty to it. Nothing extreme, but just some technical skills. And then a good start finish area. Yeah, to me the course is the main thing, just having a fun course which people can pass on, and it needs to be challenging physically, technically, and yeah, I mean that's what we had. Another thing is the climate, trying to do it at the right time of year. So in Canada you don't want to be in the summer when it's smoky, or on the shoulder season when it's rainy. So we have it like the Okanagan 2-4 is July 2nd and 3rd, start of our summer. And then we have another one we're hosting this year in Canmore, the Canadian Rockies 2-4.
Right.
The 24 Hours of Adrenaline used to be a legendary race for like 10 years at least. And it's been gone for the last 4 or 5. So, I mean, Canmore's just built for 24-hour racing with the Nordic Center there and all the trails.
Right, yeah.
So that is easy to make a good course, like amazing single track, going on ski trails for some passing, come back to the stadium. So yeah, that's August 27th, 28th, end of the summer. So the bears shouldn't be an issue. And before the snow flies. So anyways, yeah, we're trying to get 24-hour racing off the ground again here in Canada. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, no, that sounds like it'd be a great thing to turn up to focus on. Now, for your training in Finale, so you've had your shoulder done. You're training for Finale. I mean, you've had your shoulder done. How are you feeling? We've all lived through the pandemic. You in interesting places. You did a 6-hour, I think, on the weekend, which you won. Are you hitting the numbers that you would expect for Finale, taking into account that your usual program of leading into 24-hour races has been interrupted by the pandemic, by shoulder surgery, etc., etc.?
Yeah, no, it's been good. Had a good winter in Africa. Had the big base in, and then spent a couple months up at altitude. And then, yeah, I've been back in Canada doing some racing and just kind of fine tuning. I definitely find like the endurance gets stronger as years go on. And so I've been working on the speed more, just especially because I'll be in the Lifetime Fitness Grand Prix, which is like 30 of the top cyclists in North America, and they're all gunners. So yeah, definitely putting a bit more effort. Yeah, anyways, yeah, I was in Africa a lot longer than expected. So when I got back to Canada, it's just been nice to settle down, and I spent more time at home than normal, kind of leading up to these races. So I think it should be good. The tank's feels pretty full right now.
All right, excellent.
And yeah, I'm just excited to get out there and get the race season going. I mean, Finale is the first big one, and then 6 days later it'll be at Unbound. It's the second part of the Lifetime Fitness Grand Prix.
Yeah,
so that's pretty big back to back.
That's a big race to the Unbound, isn't it? Like that's fast. It's what, 200 miles and flat out, something like that.
200 miles, and it's flat. Yeah, 200 miles, and it's flat out because a lot of the World Tour guys show up, and they just make it hard from the start. And you have to hang on as long as you can, because if you lose a lead group, you're out.
Yeah.
So the first 4 or 5, 6 hours, you just gotta survive the attacks, and then about hour 6, you look around and see who's left. Usually, most World Tour guys are gone. All the guys causing the pain are blown up, and you'll have guys like the Diesels left. The Ian Boswells, Peter Stetna is like the experienced guys. So we'll see what goes after 24-hour Worlds. I'm just gonna focus on Finale for now, and then Unbound's a wild card. It's possible to have a good race there, but it's also possible the body might be totally shot. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So coming in, looking at Finale, like you've been at the top of this game for quite a while now, and we've all seen the evolution of how pit stops have moved from sitting for 5 minutes per pit stop to grabbing a bottle on the go, all those sort of things. What's your strategy in terms of the pit? We've raced there before, you know what Finale is like. What's your strategy in terms of the way you're going to approach the race, and what does your pit crew look like? You're taking 2 bikes, your nutrition. Can you give us an insight as to how this race is going to pan out for you logistically?
Yeah, we'll have 2 identical Kona Heiheis. 2 of those. My coach Luke Way is coming. He's been with me for like 20 years now.
Yeah.
So, and he's raced 24 hours against me. So he'll be in the pit. Huron from Radical Lights. He's been in the last 3 championships.
Right, excellent.
And my cousin Allie, she's helped me at races in Canada, so she'll be in there as well. So that's 3 of them.
Right.
And Luke's wife Stacy will be in the background, kind of helping coordinate everything. So yeah, the pit crew's looking good. And yeah, for nutrition, I've been dialing that in a little bit more because I just know how fast pit stops have to be. I'm going to go on more of a liquid diet. Been trying a few new formulas. It's going to be working good. So yeah, we'll just try and be ready to not stop at all, because I know some of those guys don't like to stop, like English and
so it's interesting we use the word English, because I was about to ask you about your strategy in terms of the way you're going to open up. Now, typically in the races that I've seen in the past, like you're for a diesel, you're a very powerful guy, right? So you drop a lot of watts at the start of the race, and there's a lot of pain around the top end of the group, arguably created by you. Now, in terms of your approach to this race, are you going to hit it the same way you did last time? And that is go off the front and whoever goes with you comes with you? Or are you going to settle in and blast past them towards the end of the race?
Yeah, no, that's going to be, that'll be shown on game day. Yeah, it'll just depend how the body's feeling that day. Depends who's going to be there. So yeah, I really just play it. I just go by feel the day of the race. Just get it started and then just go by however the body feels. In Scotland, there's a deep field there, and I just want to test the guys early. And yeah, the body's feeling good, so we just got that race started pretty quick. Brazil, that was a little different because there was a Brazil marathon champ there. I forget his name, but he went out like a rocket. He was going a bit what I thought was too fast for 24-hour race. So I settled in with Taylor Ledeen for a while,
Mm.
and we were just watching this Brazilian guy just go like dropping all the watts, and sure enough, he eventually he blew up pretty good. But then he came back strong. He finished strong. He finished second. So
Yeah,
kudos to him. But yeah, it just really depends on the race day what happens, who's going hard, and yeah, just play it by minute, play it by lap.
right, fantastic. And taking into account that this is a return to 24-hour racing after a couple of year hiatus. What are you looking forward to most coming back to arguably happy hunting grounds for you in Finale? When you land in Milan, I dare say you're flying into Milan or Rome, and you get to Finale, what are you looking out for? What are you hoping to see, and what excites you about being in Finale in particular?
Well, it's just like it's just a community. Just seeing all the races there. Just we've all trained so hard all winter. Just nice to finally get to put all that spend all that training, spend all that power that you've built up over the winter. Yeah, it's just nice to go out there and empty the tank and just see what you got. So yeah, I just love the competition. I love this the suffering that comes with it. The atmosphere in Finale is insane with all the Italians and their party, and I mean there's not a better race out there as far as atmosphere goes. So just to be there, to be part of it, it's going to be amazing. So yeah, it's just going to be pretty epic. And Finale is just a beautiful spot on the ocean, and it'll be nice. Just get over there and see what happens.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, now any sponsors? You're sponsored by Kona, Radical Lights. Anyone else you'd like to thank for helping you be at the top of the game for so long?
Yeah, I mean, our clothing sponsor, 7 Mesh, they make some amazing kits. Shimano has been backing us up for the pony team for many years. So yeah, we run an XTR 12-speed. Fox, they got the awesome step cast 34 forks, and Maxxis tires. They're pretty bomb proof, and they have a wide selection. So yeah, WTB saddle. So it's nice. We have the same sponsors for a number of years. So there's no surprises. You know what you have. Gyro helmet, Jumbo glasses that adapt to the night. Yeah, Squirt lube. I mean, I've been running a Squirt for a long time. The new tire sealant's pretty sweet with the bead locks. So yeah, it's just nice to know your equipment. Yeah, because for 24 hours you wanna be comfortable.
Yeah, that's it. Comfortable and reliable. Cool. All right. Well, this has been a WEMBO interview with current 3-time elite world champion, Cory Wallace. Thanks so much, Cory, for making the time. Good luck between now and May 28. We're so looking forward to seeing you be there. As we mentioned, it's going to be a fizzing, frothing atmosphere. Having the best in the world at the top of the game, racing in Finale is going to be incredible for us all. So looking forward to seeing you there. Thanks again, Cory Wallace.
Yeah, thanks, Jason.
See you there.
Yeah, sounds good.